Hello. Thank you all for coming out tonight and for being interested in our stories. I'm going to talk to you about a time in my life that was a significant failure, which I'm sure you're all anxious to hear about. It took me 11 years to get my bachelor's degree. Now, I didn't tell my college-age kids that when they started college. I didn't want them thinking it was an 11-year kind of deal. But, you know, the truth is, it's not a race, right? And I really liked working. There was something about having a paycheck and having a set of things that I had to do, and then going in and doing those every shift, it wasn't every day, but I just liked having work and having done my work well. And as a student, I really didn't get that feeling about what I was doing. Sometimes I felt like I was drifting through, or, you know, I might write a paper, it's really good, it goes somewhere and it's great, but nobody ever talks to me about what's there, about my ideas. I wasn't connected that well. So I started as a licensed practical nurse, and then I got my associate degree in nursing, and then I got my bachelor's degree in nursing, and all of that took me 11 years. But I found gradually that I was good at it. I could be good at taking care of people, about helping people through really difficult times in their life, and taking care of the more technical things, which were all interesting, and taking care of that emotional piece as well. And it really felt good to me. And then I sort of left that career that I felt really confident in and felt good about myself as a nurse, and I went to medical school. And it was kind of like going from middle school to high school. You know, like you're the oldest, you know what's going on in middle school, then you go to high school and it's like you're nobody. You're a low man on the totem pole there. And I spent probably the first year of medical school thinking that somebody was going to come and tap me on the shoulder and say, "Oh dear, there's been a mistake." And we really meant to admit Marsha Rappley and not Marsha Rappley. But that never happened, so I made it through that first year. And medical school was a pretty amazing experience. I learned amazing things with amazing speed. And I got to be pretty good at that too. And I felt like somebody has passed me a ball and I'm running with this ball as fast and as hard as I could go. And there was no end to it. There was no end to what could be learned and what could be tackled next. So then I finished medical school. I go next into residency. So that's where you train to be, in my case, a pediatrician. And that was a true, oh my God. That was like swimming against the tsunami. You know, there's like these very, very, very sick children. And they're like coming in and they're going out so fast you can barely have the sense that you've completed what you needed to complete. The parents are very distraught, of course. Some of these children are not going to live very long. It was moving, it was demanding, it was exhausting, but it was exhilarating. And I also found that I could do that, and I got to be good at that too, over time. My second year of residency, it's like you wake up one morning, it's from June 30th to July 1, I'm in charge. It's like, okay, I'm in charge. And I remember that every time I would be on the night shift or the weekend shift, I'd get out that roster and there would be about 5 of us, more senior pediatricians, still residents, in the hospital. And I'd look to see, okay, who's smarter than me? Like, who's more experienced than I am, so that I know who to call when I need help. And it was just really, you know, like, oh my God, when I realized I was the most senior person and most experienced in the house. So I was in charge, and that was a little bit of a rude awakening. And yet we had these really fabulous teams. We had nurses, pharmacists, the residents, the attending physicians, the medical students. Everybody had their job to do, and everybody was really well trained and played their job very well, did their job very well. And these teams would hum, and when they were humming, the hospital would just hum. And bad things would happen because it was a hospital, and people were there because they were really, really sick. But we could handle them, and we did that. And so over time, I began to build confidence with that too, and I can organize the things that needed to be done across the hospital, all the different aspects of it, and I could get the pieces to fit, and I could kind of see the top to the bottom as it was all supposed to unfold. So I'm feeling like I'm really at the top of my game here. I'm good. I feel like I'm good. And I decided that I'm going to be a super subspecialist. I'm going to be a child neurologist. So I move from my residency, and I move into the specialty training. And this is a specialty of very high intellect, like geeky-like intellect. And it was a bit of a different culture than I'd ever been in. I was still am a very kind of action-oriented person. And this was a very reflective kind of group of people who would think a lot about the problems presented. They would be very complicated. And most of the time back then, they didn't have to be solved right away, so you'd have some time to think about the problem and figure out the nature of it and the right approach to it. But it didn't feel right to me. I didn't feel right in it. And I was getting lost in what I was doing. And I started to fumble things and, kind of drop the ball instead of carrying it like I was supposed to. And this got worse instead of better. This did not get better. Like, that had been my experience, that I could be down. I could feel like I was really at a point where I didn't know what I needed to know, but I knew it was coming and I was building towards it. But I felt I was slipping in this. And towards the end of my first year, I took my exam. We took an exam at the end of the year, and it was oriented towards the care of a patient. So a real patient volunteered to be the patient in the exam for me. And I had to do an interview and a physical exam. So the feedback was that my interview was very good. I had great communication skills, and I was very respectful of the patient, and that went well. And my exam was very thorough and very diligent. But the pieces did not fit for me. I didn't know what the guy had. Okay? So I had asked all the right questions. I got all the right answers, or all the answers, all the information I needed. I did all the right things on my physical exam. And it didn't fit. And this is an exam. There is a right answer, okay? This is not like, oh, it could be one of a million things. No. There's a right answer here, and I don't know what it is. So I walked away from that experience, and I realized I had, failed this exam. But I actually then had to be a little bit more honest with myself, because I had this kind of gnawing in my stomach for a while, that this was not about just failing an exam. This was like failing a whole entire year. Just a year of one failure after another. And this sort of gnawing feeling, it was just growing, and I felt like my heart just didn't have room to beat like it should. It was getting kind of crushed by this, and I was having to think about every breath I took. This was a really difficult time, and I didn't understand it. I didn't know. I felt like I didn't know what was happening to me. So you have to understand that in medical school, medical education, everything is highly regimented, and it's all prescribed. It's like, this is what you do. You do this and this and then this and this and this, and you do it in this order, and you don't change. And you start and you finish. And as soon as you accomplish one thing, you're on to the next. You don't get a lot of time to reflect about, oh, I did that really well. You're just on to the next challenge, which pushes you even further. And I had done that, and I had done that for 8 years. And in the 8th year, I'm failing. So I had a week's vacation coming, so I go home on my vacation. And the other thing that you need to know is that, oh, by the way, I also got married and I had a baby during all of this stuff. And it was kind of like, oh, by the way, I got married. I actually was in my clinic the day I got married, and I asked my senior physician if she would see my last patient, because I had to be at the Justices of the Peace before 5 so that I could get married. And the guy I was marrying, he was just as bad as me. He was working on his PhD, and he could only get married between 4 and 5 p.m. because he had to present, part of his thesis to his professor. So we were well matched in that way. I'm also married. I have this new beautiful baby, and I'm sitting at home, and I don't want to go back to work. And that really had never happened to me before. I did not want to go back. But I didn't know anything of it, and I didn't want to go back. So I called up one of my teachers from medical school, and he had always been very kind to me. A very wise man and very supportive, but mostly he had been very kind to me. And I thought maybe that's kind of what I need. And he said, oh, come by, and bring the baby, and I'll see your baby. So I walk into his office, and, I carry this, cute little baby, and sit down, and I just start crying. I just cry. That's not like me either. So I'm just crying. And he's a psychiatrist, and he's a really skilled psychiatrist, and, a really good psychiatrist. They have a way they could just say, well, how are you? And it just makes you go right to the honest part of you. You just can't escape that. So that's where I was, and my reply was all of these tears. I'm sitting there with this cute little baby, and she's smiling and happy, and I'm just bawling my eyes out. So then he says, well, do you want to talk about it? Do you want to tell me about it? And I said, well, I'm a complete failure. I just failed, and I can't be a child neurologist. And if I can't be a child neurologist, then what am I going to be? And there was like panic, and there was fear, and there was helplessness. And like I still feel that today when I tell you this story. I feel that at that moment. And it was a plea. It's like, what am I going to do? And I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you.